Hey there, I have been meaning to record a video about how I make the little nets that I put on a lot of my loom weights. I've been meaning to make a video of that for a super duper long time, and now I am gonna try to do that. So, yeah, let's do it. So when I make weights for my warp weighted looms, I will often make a little net around my weights that comes out looking kind of like this, or this, sometimes this. The reason I started doing this is because a lot of the stones in my area are just, they're very hard, and you can drill holes in them if you want to, but you need like a diamond core drill bit, and you got to set up water, and it's kind of a big hassle. So oh, and I should say, I think like ideally ceramic weights are going to be better in the long run because they can be more uniform, but stones are plentiful and free, and can make really lovely loom weights, and so this is how I have done it. All right, let's take a look. So you're going to start by going out into the world and finding some stones. Here are some that I've picked up. I try to find things that are sort of conical, like not super round, somewhat uniform in size, and not too big, not too small. You know, what constitutes the right size stone for you is going to depend on what you're doing. I like stones that are kind of between the 300 and 600 gram range, and I always mark my stones. So this one is 530 grams. That's kind of a nice, you know, not too big, not too small. Works for a lot of the things that I do. This one is 1,000 grams. So this is kind of getting up. I tend to use a fewer of these days. But it's a trade-off. Here's one that weighs 620 grams, and I kind of tend to mix my measurements together, my imperial and metric measurements, but when I'm working on the warp weighted loom, because I'm American, but always marking my loom weights in grams, just because that is a lot easier. All right, so the technique that I'm doing here is, it's a knotless netting, kind of a really simple nalbinding sort of a stitch or practice. And the kinds of string that I use today, I have just some kind of it's a 3-ply kitchen or garden twine. It's cotton, it's fairly strong. This was like a lightweight polypropylene or some kind of a synthetic from the hardware store. This was a couple strands of cotton kitchen twine and some linen that I plied together to make it a little stronger. I'm going to start. So I picked up my stone, I washed it, I weighed it, and wrote the weight on it in a place up near where it's going to be the top of the weight, where it's going to be easy to see. And these stones, I also put a little linseed oil on them just because they look prettier than. Not necessary to do it all. Now I'm going to take my string, and I'm going to want, for a little stone like this, maybe 3 arms lengths of the string. It's not super critical. You know, if you run out, you can add some more. If you've got extra at the end, you can clip it off. So I'm going to make kind of a starting band around the top, and then I'm going to make my net around it working. So I'm working from the upper portion down. So I'm going to begin by taking at least about 12 inches of my string and putting it out here, leaving a long tail. This tail is what will become the loop at the top of this weight that I'm going to pass my warps through. So that's my start, leave a long tail. And then I'm going to wrap this twice around this upper portion of the stone. Slide it off. I'm holding that little loop that I just made. I'm going to tie a knot around it using that tail that's sticking out to just hold it. I'm going to go back to my stone, slip that over the top. You want to make sure this is tight enough that it's not going to slide down past like a midpoint on your stone. And like I said, don't choose a stone that's too round, otherwise the whole neck could just fall off it. Now I'm gonna I've got my thumb on my little starting border that I made, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find something closer to the end of my long piece of string, and I'm bringing it under my starting border and making a loop back towards myself. I'm just going to pull it all the way through till I have something that kind of looks like that. And I'm going to have that be my first loop. I'm going to leave a loop hanging down. And I'm just going to do that all the way around my little starting band that I made. I can sort of adjust that. The first row of these is always the hardest to make because you've got, you know, there's not much to pull against, and so you're just having to kind of hold things with your fingers. I like to you got to get it like at least 4 of these loops going around, I feel, to get a nice net. 5 is a nice number. And you can make these, this net does not have to be, you know, like really small or really big. It's just whatever is going to hold your stone in place. So you can see, so I'm coming under this starting border and bringing the string back towards myself. Now I'm back at the beginning. Here's my long tail that's going to become the handle. The ends will just push that out of the way. Now my next move, here is the first loop where we started. So I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to do it in the loop instead of in the starting border. I'm going to put my thumb on that one that I just made so that it stays. Keep going. And now as you start to make this second row, you can begin to kind of tug on this a little bit. And we're going to just go all the way around until we're back at the beginning again, and then we'll just keep going. And as you go, you can start to kind of pull these a little tighter so that they are conforming to the shape of the stone, being a nice snug wrap on there. As far as I know, there's no archaeological evidence to suggest that this is a historic way that people prepared loom weights. This is just something that I came up with as a workaround to avoid having to drill holes in hard stones and be able to make loom weights quickly and easily. Because whenever you're teaching a class, it's just a rule that you never have as many weights as you would like. So pretty much, even after years of teaching workshops, I feel like I'm making weights in every workshop I teach. All right. So up over the top, and then it turns back towards itself. Does that make sense? I always think of Sankofa, that gesture of looking back. All right. I can pull that nice and tight. Ooh, it's making a net. It's making a net. If you are building a loom and you are like making your first set of weights, it's, you know, between like 300, 400 gram weights are nice ones to start off with. And you're going to want to end up with, oh gosh, I was about to say I've had 45 pounds of weights in grams. Is it, I don't know, a smallish project. You're going to need more than you think. You know, give yourself 36 kilos of weights. How does that sound? Or if you're just doing something tiny to begin with, that's fine too. Make it fewer. You can make your weights smaller. It's that balancing act between, you know, if you have fewer weights but they're heavy, it's not gonna be as good in your weaving. You want the weights when they're all on your project to like the space that they occupy should be kind of the same as the width of your weaving. So, you know, if you only have like 3 giant rocks on it, that's not going to be as good as 24 rocks that occupy a space that's related to the width of the weaving. So here I'm getting down towards the bottom, and the my nets, my loops, they just naturally get smaller towards the bottom. So I'm pulling them quite tightly now. Like that first row that I did, you cannot tighten them down much at all because, like I said, you don't have much to pull against. But now that I'm down here towards the bottom, and if if you like your fingernails, you might want to, you know, get an awl or a big needle of some kind so that you're not just using your fingernails to push this through. I'll just do a few more. It's not absolutely critical that you get down to the very bottom on this, because like as a structure, if it's all pulled tight around the stone like this, it pretty much stays where you put it. So we're going to tie this one off and just say it is done. So to finish, I just did kind of one of my usual loops. Just do a couple more in the same space. So under, oh goodness, it's so tight. Like I said, not good for your fingernails. So there's a second one in the same space. I usually do 3, but you don't need to watch me do that. And I just clipped it off. I leave a tail because I don't want this to come undone. And there is there's the weight almost done, but we need to turn this into a loop at the top. So pull it kind of snug. Now I'm going to look over on the other side of the weight and opposite it over here. And we're going to bring the tail underneath. And sometimes I like to, like if I've got a loop right that's immediately opposite where I was, that is a good place to kind of secure your loop around it so it doesn't slide around. Let's see if I can. I'm going to do kind of a funny go around both of these, I guess. So that it stays put. It's nice and tight. All right, so I brought it around both of those guys. You don't need like a whole lot of, that's plenty of space to get your warps in there. Get that tight, and now just tie it down. If you make this tail longer, you could bring it back over twice, make it a little stronger. So here we're just going to tie this guy. One more for good measure. So there we go. And this one is very politely hanging just so we can see that weight measurement that we put on it. So there you go. That is how I make nets around my loom weights. And I should make a bunch more because I just built another loom. All right, thanks. Bye.